morning, everyone, and welcome to the April 23rd edition of Quaranteam HR Chats. We've got a great agenda to run through today. We're going to be talking about the latest updates in the news of the government relief programs and other things that are going on. We're going to talk a little bit about benefits and basically how to keep people healthy and emotionally healthy as well. We're also going to talk about risks to key people in the organization. This is a Q&A style of session. We have some topics to lead the Q&A. The session is best if everyone can jump in with their questions. Please use the chat feature in Zoom. Or the Q&A feature in Zoom to post in questions as you talk. And normally we're able to just pause and address those right on the fly. We'll also have a couple of moments during the session where we can open up the microphones to everyone to raise a question or just discuss or contribute. We're not pretending to be the only ones with answers here, so everyone's input on this is valuable. We're all in this together and to help each other out. We have some great panelists joining us today. So I'll let everyone introduce themselves, starting with Helena.
Great. So I'm Helena Patience. I'm the CEO for Entreflow Consulting Group. I've been at the company for about 4 years now. I've got a long background in HR and finance, so I'm excited to be here today to share. I'll pass over to Bronwyn.
Hi guys, so I'm Bronwyn. I'm the HR practice manager with Entreflow. I've been with the team for about 3 years now, just helping with HR consulting and recruitment for small and medium-sized businesses across a great area, not just Vancouver, but we've done some across Canada there too. Yeah, I'll pass over to Dustin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dustin. I'm the Senior Manager for Business Development and Sales over at Payment Evolution, the Canada's most loved payroll solution out there. Loving the consistency with these Quaranteam chats. They're awesome. I'm here to add some value on the payroll side if possible.
Okay, thanks for joining.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, thanks for inviting us in today. We also have found the webinars that you put on very informative. And a little background about us. We're an independent employee benefits consulting firm, and we also provide executive benefits for the business owners, primarily companies between 5 and about 100 employees. And as many people know, about 90% of companies in British Columbia employ less than 50 people. And we have a family-run business. My son is my partner in the business, and we look after well over 200 clients.
Wonderful.
Hi, everyone. Matt here. And as my dad said, we're happy to help out with any of your employee benefits questions. And I've been doing this for about 7 years now. Thanks.
Well, thanks, everyone. I should introduce myself. I'm Ian Rogers, the founder of Entreflow Consulting Group. Also want to give a special mention to Colin Weston, who's normally on these chats with us, and he will probably join a few minutes late. This is kind of his slide, but I'll take it from here. Colin is the community leader for Startup Vancouver, which is a chapter of Startup Canada. And he is in a lot of ways a connective tissue for the community of small and growing companies in Vancouver. So he's offered to co-present the Quaranteam chats with us, and hopefully he can join us as soon as he gets off his previous meeting. So lots of talking heads coming at you today, but I do encourage everyone to join in. A special shout out to everyone joining us on Facebook Live today. We normally get lots of people joining there, and it would be great to share the Facebook live stream as it goes out or afterwards when you see it. If you are listening to this after the fact, please visit our website, www.entreflow.com. There's a nice link right on the home page that takes you to all the joining details for these chats. So next Tuesday at 11 o'clock and next Thursday at 11 o'clock Pacific time, you can join right in, and then you can have your own questions answered live. If you have questions after the fact, of course, feel free to email us, and we'll try and either get them answered on the next chat or just reply back to your email or comment. So a little bit further about who we are. We're a small boutique consulting firm. We do accounting and finance. We're a licensed CPA public practice firm, and we've been helping a lot of companies with their accounting needs as it comes to eligibility requirements for these kind of programs that the government's rolling out. We do HR consulting, as Brian was already mentioned, helping teams through hiring or layoffs and how to have healthy teams. And we also do a bit of marketing strategy consulting as well. That's my background. But these chats aren't really about us. That's just more so for background, so you know who we are. Let's get into the news. And there have been some good updates and announcements recently. The CRA wage subsidies, the CEWS, they've announced that they have opened up or will be opening up the applications on April 27th. So if you're still keeping track of the days, that will be Monday of next week that you can sign into your CRA My Business account, and you should be able to complete the application online there. We don't have much information about what's going to be on that application form because it's not there yet, but I promise that next week, as soon as we're able to crack in there and pull that thing apart, we'll be able to dive in there and get your questions answered about that thing. So stay tuned for next week's sessions, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about the CEWS. There haven't been any changes in the eligibility requirements that we've seen, so it's still looking for a 15% decrease in revenue between the months average of January, February of 2020 or the same month last year, so March last year. And it's looking like if you qualify for this period, then you might qualify for the next periods. If you didn't qualify for this period, they're looking for a 30% drop. So some of these things that are still as stated previously. So no updates there.
One thing to note, it'll take about 2 weeks for the subsidy to be deposited into your bank account. Now is a good time to go to your My Business account, and make sure that you've got direct deposit set up. Otherwise, they're going to post a check to you, and who knows how long it'll take to get to you. So this week, the task is to go into your My Business account and make sure that your direct deposit is set up. Well, first of all, make sure you've got your My Business account set up. A lot of people don't have that set up, and it can take a bit of time to get that done. And then make sure you've got your direct deposit set up so you can get that subsidy really quickly.
Great. Next item, the Canadian Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. There's so many acronyms here. The KECRA, maybe we'll call this one. And this has been announced. So the feds put up an announcement saying that they're going to help businesses with their rents. Details of that are yet to come. And again, there's a petition to get the provincial governments to chip in some as well. So these links will be available in the slides when we post them up on our website either later today or tomorrow morning. So make sure that you follow through on these things if you didn't on Tuesday. Other news is that for innovative companies that maybe aren't qualifying for some of these other programs because they didn't meet the payroll eligibility requirements or revenue requirements, that the IRAP program is now able to step up and offer some support. So the application is actually open right now. So you've got to get on it because it's only going to be open until April 29th, which again, if you're counting the days, is less than a week away. That's Wednesday of next week. And the funds will flow a couple of weeks after that. But this is really for small, innovative, like startups that maybe didn't have many people on payroll, aren't making revenue at this point, and are still having trouble with making things happen in this troubled times. to be able to apply for those. So typically you're going to have to be part of or qualifying for the IRAP sort of programs anyway, doing those kinds of activities to take advantage of this credit. So if you're in the orbit of IRAP already, talk to your ITA, and we'll surely help answer questions about that. Take note though, this is a much smaller funding pool than the other programs out there, okay guys? So it's not going to be for everybody. Okay, there's financial support available for students. I don't know about this one, so I might hand it off to Bronwyn. Do you know any more details on this program? If maybe some of your employees are students, what can they do?
Yeah, so if you've got any, like Ian said, any employees right now who graduated in December of 2019 or are returning to school in September, there's some funding online available to students to be able to get some financial support, just due to the fact that might be hard to find a job over the summer. So they want to obviously make sure that our students are taken care of during this time as well. I believe that there's a link there that you'll be able to access after when we post the slides, where you can see some more information on that. The exact numbers of this support I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so that was just announced, I believe 2 days ago, that there's going to be some support there.
I seem to remember the number $1,500.
Yeah, it was like
for monthly expenses.
in and around like 1,300 or 1,500, I believe, and I think it, something in that range. Okay,
and this is a personal subsidy for them directly, not for say a company that employs them. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's for the students. So we did talk last week about the Canada Summer Jobs grant, and it actually has closed as of February 28th, but they are having some exceptions to essential service companies that may need to hire students at this time. I think we can provide more information on that one as well, but from what I've seen, you have to reach out to the government fairly quickly to kind of request for special access to that Canada Summer Job Grant.
Okay, sounds good. And it looks like we had a comment on the line from somebody about the IRAP program. So the NRC IRAP is for companies, startup company, one person on payroll, and one who is still not on payroll. It's unclear. So this is a question. So one person on payroll and the founder was not on payroll. It's unclear how it could work in that case if eligible for IRAP support or not. True, very true. So we need to go through the details of that application, and perhaps we can jump on the phone and do a little one-on-one on that after this session, okay?
Also, I'm not sure if Dave, if you're on the line and willing to share, I think you've applied for the program, the new application that came out. So if you're willing to share kind of what that was like for you, that'd be cool. Any tips? Okay, I might just unmute you here for a second, or are you on?
Well, let's just do this last point and then we'll open up the mics.
Okay, great.
Okay. So the last point is how does the SHRED program and the CEWS program, the wage subsidy, interface? So that was a question on Tuesday's call. And so we did a little bit of digging into this. It looks like the subsidy will reduce the expenses that you're able to claim for SRED. So for instance, if I'm paying $10,000 of salary for somebody doing shreddable work, innovative, technical uncertainty kind of work, and I intend to claim $10,000 for my shred claim, but I get $7,500 covered by the CEWS, then that reduces my shreddable claim to $2,500. So that's the rough math or theory behind what we've discovered so far. So it's a bit of a balance. This is certainly important for people to consider. If you need the wage subsidy right now to keep the lights on, keep moving ahead, then certainly it's something that you want to get. Don't apply for it if you don't need it and you're thinking that you can apply for SHRED later on and get some of that money back. So there's an answer there. Okay, questions, answers from the lines. Maybe we can open up mics, and we can have, I think Dave said he was going to talk us through a little bit more about the IRAP thing.
Take it away.
Sure, I'm happy to make some comments. So Helena, as you know, I had, with a warning from one of my friends who's an ITA in Ontario, to prepare for the IRAP assistance application, I actually completed on my own a full traditional IRAP application, so that I would have any answer imaginable prepared for the current application or current submission. Well, I did that, and as it turned out, the application forms on this particular program really don't focus on the number of technical employees or what's typical in an IRAP application. Instead, the focus seemed to be on how many people are sort of either on T4s for 2020 or about to be on T4s for 2020.
Okay.
A little tough to figure out just how important it is to have an existing team already being paid, having, of course, been hammered with a drop in business. It seemed like it sure helps to be able to show some kind of pre-existing revenue from customers. Maybe this is just too speculative, but my impression is that if you can sort of conjure up a history of sales or at least beta customers, that it would be an advantage to include mention of them. There is a concern in the application questions around the impact of your business going away. So how would the disappearance of your business affect your supply chain and potentially existing beta customers? If you went away, would it be destructive to a lot of other, or at least a few other companies? So those are good questions to be prepared to answer in a really clear, concise fashion. Yeah, the concept of supporting pre-revenue, pre-customer companies seem to be, let's say, very subtly expressed in the question. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to expect of it, but I'd be keen to hear what other people who applied already have to say about it.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for those insights. That's very helpful. Were there any other questions about the programs or the news items? Sounds like no. So we'll keep moving on.
If you're on Facebook Live, you can also type them into the chat there too.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like Lena's got Facebook open, so happy to take questions on the live chat there, and we'll see what we can do. New technology. All right.
Keep up, Ian. Keep up.
Sometimes you feel like a deer in the headlights. There's the pun. Look. Oh dear. Okay, I had to. I'm a dad. All right. Top tips. So we talked a little bit about some uncomfortable or awkward people situations coming up. So I thought we'd just sort of run through conflict. Things feel like they're starting to fray at the edges a little bit for some businesses. Maybe where the team's a little bit larger, and that momentum that carried us through the first few weeks of quarantine has sort of dying down, and people are sort of nervous or getting afraid. So conflict seems to be coming up. That's troublesome when it's between two employees, even more troublesome when it's between a manager or a leader and an employee, and worst of all, where it's between two leaders or two co-founders. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about this because we've seen this kind of thing happen. We've seen some emotional breakdowns happening and I thought we'd give some top tips for what to think about. The first thing that I want to say is that conflict requires the participation of two people. So if you don't participate, there's no conflict. And I think that's you can recuse yourself and just step out of that conflict for a few minutes. You don't have to keep that going. The next thing is short communication. So we've become accustomed to doing a lot of texting or Slack or instant messages between each other, and it's easy to assume that the other person on the receiving that message understands your intent, and is going to go ahead and get that thing done that you asked them to do. But there's an awful lot of reading between the lines, and especially if somebody is with frayed nerves already, they might be taking something personally that you didn't intend. So it's very important to, send those quick messages. Those are important to keep things going, but also to make sure to have that long form communication, that rich interaction. That's very important as well. And just check in and just say, hey, I know I've been sending you quick, terse messages, but I just want to make sure that we're still rocking, we're still on the same page here. And you're not perceiving that I'm being angry in any way. Okay, second thing is gratitude. So always make sure to be thankful for the other people that are working with you. Make sure and say thank you for getting that thing done. A little bit of gratitude goes a long way. And this last thing is it's called ladders of inference. So this is a concept that I learned about in my MBA classes, and I just wanted to throw up this nice little illustrative example. The concept goes like this. So two people, they start out intending to work together on task or with a basically shared understanding of what's going on. They're on the ground. Okay, they can easily relate to each other from that perspective. Then from that common understanding, each person starts climbing their ladder of inference. They infer a thing, which leads to the next step in their inference. And these inferences are just based on their own logic and understanding of the situation, which may be different from the other person's logic and understanding of the situation. Before long, they climbed up their ladders. And now, this is the funny point about this topic, they're smiling now because they're looking at the camera, but as soon as one of them says, hey, pass me that screwdriver, well, you realize that they're 10 feet apart and they've left their tool bag on the ground. Right? So now one of them is going to say, well, I needed you to grab this for me. We both climbed up to fix the roof here. Why didn't you pass me the screwdriver? Right? Why didn't you be ready for that? And this guy over here is not even, you can see from the shadow, he's about 6 feet away from the wall. He's not working on the roof. He just thought we were going to climb up and check it out. I don't know. So it's important to, if you are in this conflict, just climb back down those ladders of inference, guys, and say, okay, let's reset. I'll pick up the tool bag. Okay, you climb up that other ladder so we can see what's going on. Whatever it is, climb down the ladders of inference and start back from first principles. Start back from that common understanding of what we're trying to do. Cool. All right, that's my fun little topic for today.
And if I can just add.
Yeah, go for it.
With text and short communication, tone is really hard to control and use effectively. So just be very careful with your tone right now. People are a little bit more sensitive than usual and will sometimes misinterpret things a little bit easier than usual. So that's one thing. And then also when you do have a breakdown, when you've got two people on ladders going different directions, it's helpful if there are people on your team that have are commonly found with finding themselves in breakdowns in communication, to have some kind of like safe word or something that is like, hey, it looks like we're having a breakdown, or let's take a break and come back in 5 minutes, or whatever that kind of terminology needs to be to indicate between the two people, we need to stop, it's not working, it's time to get back down the ladder, whatever that might be. So if you have teams that are having issues, that can kind of help just give them a tool to say, okay, when you guys feel like there's a breakdown, usually you can tell if your heart's racing or you start getting nervous or you're getting angry, then just verbalize that. I'm getting triggered right now, or whatever it is, so that both people can stop carrying on climbing up the ladder of whatever, and of doom, or whatever you want to call it, climb back down and get on the same page again.
That sounds good.
That's my 2 cents. We've
I
got
think
Dustin, you got a comment, question?
Yeah, just a quick comment. It's interesting. We're noticing that, yes, having those rich conversations are going to be a great thing within our own team, but we've our safe word is actually in action, and it's and I share this with a couple of people that could be helpful. We do it at home sometimes. It's this. It doesn't mean time out. It just means you're talking too much. Like, and I'm noticing that the action without, if something's being very much misunderstood sometimes, or maybe there's a tonality that's in play that you don't want to miscommunicate, sometimes the action itself is like, okay, it could be helpful to not trigger an individual, or not impulse an individual to react, and allow them to be a little bit more proactive and say, oh, okay, I'll take a second, and then move forward.
Super helpful.
All right. Speaking of which, I'm talking too much.
Yeah,
so,
Ian.
so I'm going to hand this next piece over to the people who know more than me. Go ahead.
Is that going to me then?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. So, I like during our chats to try and bring a tip or conversation towards kind of returning back to normal, because I think it's nice to be able to be a little bit forward thinking, especially, knowing next week going into our team's week 7 that we're about to enter into working from home. So one of the things that I was thinking about was, looking to rehire your team back, and potentially cash flow not being exactly where it was when you maybe had to lay off some of the team members or close shop completely. So, top tips on maybe some compensation plan boosters to, help with bringing team members back on, and maybe saving a little bit on the initial base salary, if you can, and giving these boosters that make the total compensation package a little juicier. So a couple things that came to mind for me was, health and dental benefits plans. Obviously, it's kind of expected by most employees now to receive a health and dental plan of some sorts, but maybe looking to increase the coverage that you have. Talk to your benefits providers and see what might be able to be done there. Another one was, looking at increasing your vacation days that the team's being offered. Standard for, anybody who's been with the company under 5 years is to have 2 weeks vacation. Maybe, bump it up to 3. Everybody loves vacation days, and when we're able to travel and whatnot again, I think that those will come in handy. You can also be offering, sick or personal days that are paid for your employees. And, there's bonus plans that can be put into place, maybe offering a gym membership, paying for your employees' gym memberships, or getting a business membership somewhere that everybody's able to access the gym. There's also the option to do some stock options in the company if that is something that's doable for your organization. So those were my thoughts on some compensation plan boosters there. Helena, you have anything else you wanted to add, or
yeah,
Dustin?
No, I'll pass it over to Dustin. I think on the vacation day too, one thing I just might point out is that once we're able to exit our houses again, I would probably anticipate that a lot of employees are going to want to take a vacation, especially if they had vacation planned during this period. A lot of people are probably planning to go away for spring break or something, and it all got canceled, and it's been really trying. So we've talked about at Entreflow just closing the office for a week. I didn't tell you about this yet, Ian, did I?
We haven't told the team yet either.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oops. Just to say, okay, everyone take a week off and just chill out and go away. And rather than having the next 6 weeks, having a substantial amount of the team taking time off, and and making it just really difficult for us to keep momentum and communication and going strong while people are away. It's just to say, okay, why don't everyone just take the time off at the same time, and then we can all get a rest right away, and then come back all refreshed and carry on. So it might be something to consider. It doesn't have to be a whole week. It could even be a couple of days. Do you know what I mean? Just to give a extra long weekend, to give everyone a break, a mental break. Because even though we've been at home, and it's not exactly a staycation, let's be honest.
Mhm.
Okay, and then Dustin, you had some comments there too.
Yeah, I'm noticing that with, speaking from an HR standpoint, a payroll standpoint, and what we're seeing with a lot of HR stuff that we're seeing with a lot of our clients, and even a lot of current people, prospects that are thinking to be coming aboard. Here's an interesting statistic. There's been an increase of benefits in the last little bit, which I'm sure Matt and Chuck could probably speak of, either of, taking on more. But the one thing that we're noticing a ton of that we're seeing added is Amazon Prime memberships as part of compensation packages.
Interesting.
And it's really interesting because, especially now, obviously the necessity to have something delivered, and also it comes with a complimentary, I think they do like almost like a Netflix with Prime Video. And so funny enough, it's something that happened at Payment Evolution, but not only that, it also happened, it was part of one of our blogs that we talked about earlier on, before the pandemic really fully hit. But it's something that we're seeing a lot of people include, where of course they'll have benefits and things of that nature, maybe some bonus plans, equity options like you were mentioning, Bronwyn. But the biggest one we're seeing is that's really cost effective and everyone wants, and it's a great way, is Amazon Prime membership, like the annual membership
It's like $90 for the year, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that you would just have to invest about $100 per, employee per se, and you get a ton of retention out of it as well. And because it's something that they for sure would have used or would have been coming out of their own paycheck to pay for, if it's really valuable for them. But anyways, so some insight.
Is that a taxable benefit?
Yeah, I think if you provide a gift card worth and you give them the gift card, I think that's the only way I know that it could be taxable. But I would defer them to firms like yourself, Helena, to ask that question more specifically.
Cool. And
Sounds
then
good.
to get some more background on some things to do on benefits, let's pass it over to the Grossholz team to share impart your amazing knowledge with us. Oh, I think you're muted there, Chuck.
Matt, do you want to jump in here?
Sure. So there's a few options to do for benefits with layoffs, and if you want to save on premiums as well. So let's start with layoffs here as the agenda shows. So what do you want to do with your employees? Like, we're having either the choices, you can either extend benefits for employees or take them off entirely, and how long do you want to extend it for? There's all different types of options, and each insurance company is kind of actually offering pretty much the same choices, which is extend benefits for 120 days or whatever, and then the other option is extend benefits with no LTD, or are they going to be permanent layoffs? And you can.
Or what's LTD for?
Long-term disability.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
No problem. And then you have to treat each class or each group of employees the same as to whatever you want to do with that. Dad, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, what we're experiencing from a lot of our clients are questions on how can we manage our cash flow better? What can we do for employees on who are, as Matt was talking about, is on temporary layoffs? And then also, especially now with no limited options for dental, how can we help people out with that? And I think Matt's going to talk a little bit about that next, is what the insurance industry has come up with as options, because their claims have been significantly lower for paramedical services, massage, physio, and dental. So they've come up with a number of options for clients that we've been working with.
So the options to lower or stop premiums, I first want to say that the insurance industry overall has done a great job by having automatic premium reductions for health and dental across the board. So it really depends on the insurance company, but for the most part, it's a 50% reduction on premiums on dental, and then a 20% reduction on health. And this is being backdated to April 1st. they're also offering options to defer premiums for 1 to 2 months and maintain coverage. And then you also have options to make plan design changes. So we've seen some of our clients remove dental entirely and just keep accidental dental in place. And then what we were talking about previously, like gym memberships and Netflix accounts, those are options that you can run through wellness accounts as well. So that is a great option. We're seeing a lot of companies add that in the meantime, while reducing sort of their traditional benefit plan, but adding to their Flex Dollar account.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about how that works, running it through a wellness account. Why would I do that versus just giving them the cash or signing up on their behalf? What's the mechanics, and how does that help me out?
And is it a taxable benefit then?
It could be. It's a T4 taxable benefit. Yes. So you could actually, and we've seen accounts set up where the employee gets to choose how much they want to put into their, let's say you give the employee, for example, $1,000. Well, at the beginning of the year, they choose how much they want to allocate to health style dollars and then wellness style or lifestyle dollars. And so for instance, let's say they want to put a bike or get a bike or a ski pass, or we've even seen or some employees select any option at all where they can run any account, and it's a T4 taxable benefit. And so, yes, that is an option for employees.
Okay, that sounds good. If there are probably some folks on the line here who don't have a benefits plan at the moment, or who have maybe just recently hired some employees and are just getting set up. What sorts of things should they think about in this kind of time?
I think right now the biggest thing for employers to consider is cost containment, and then also how to make it sustainable going in the future, right? So what we're seeing, again, what's great about these flex dollars is that you're giving the employee a bag of money and it's not affected by rates or usage. That's what they get. And you're not going to see that increase. Where I just had an employee, we're dealing with renewals all the time where we're seeing 20% increases, 30% increases. Well, how do you handle that? And oftentimes then you're reducing coverage after the fact, and nobody likes that. So, it's finding that balance between the traditional plan and the flex dollar that we're seeing as a great solution for our clients. Dad, did you have anything to add to that?
Yes, and Ian, the question that you're asking is really good. Is like, if we've just started a plan, or how do we modify our benefits to create compensation tools which are going to attract, retain good employees? And I think, Dustin, you brought up a really good idea. Is like, how do we be more creative in this environment where services are not available that have traditionally been available? And how do we provide things which are going to keep people feeling good about working and wanting to contribute more? And so these lifestyle dollars, you're obviously going to be lowering your costs already on dental and paramedical services, and you're automatically getting reductions there. So how can we now be a little more creative to provide things? And so I think what you're thinking is thinking outside of the box of what traditionally has been done. And I really like your thinking about, like, we've heard about providing gratitude. If somebody does a good job, maybe have something sent to their home in this sort of thing, or allowing them to choose to have things delivered, meals and this sort of thing. So you can provide, as Matt was saying, with lifestyle dollars, you can give them, as Matt coined the expression, a bag of money, and they can use that as they want to. And I think that creates a lot of good feelings with your team.
And then just for me to add, with the changing environment as well, with the changing options for dentists and paramedicals, what are the insurance companies offering in terms of just being safe right now? Well, we're seeing more insurance companies offer teledoc options as well. And so that's been a really great thing where people are able to phone in or use their app and do and have real live access with doctors and nurses.
That's great.
Yeah, tell me more about that, because this is really interesting. A lot of the stuff around cost reduction and offering good benefits is helpful from an employer's perspective. Also, there's a lot of us who are just worried about our team. Individuals on our team who are maybe stressed, having some mental health problems, too much stress and anxiety, and maybe are it's hard for us as the employers to know what they're going through. We want to be able to support them, but it's hard to do that virtually. It's hard to just check in with somebody. We want to be able to support them somehow. So what are some of the options or things that we can do as the employers to say, hey, there's help for you. You can't go to a doctor right now, but or recommended that you shouldn't go in person. But is there counseling services available? You can't go get a massage. Maybe that would be helpful for stress reduction. But what can you do, and what can we as employers help our employees with?
Maybe I could jump in here just for a moment. We could email you some links, Ian, of programs which are available, which are provided through the government to allow people to communicate with nurses and doctors, and if they want to be able to get diagnosis and speak with someone, or if they want to get prescription drugs available to them without going there. It's all available free now. And so we could send you a couple of links on how people can access those types of things. And as you were talking about, what about mental wellness? If your company has an EAP program, that's fully available. It's completely confidential from your employer and from your broker. So there's lots of different programs available out there. Maybe Dustin, are you familiar with any programs which are available outside of a traditional employee benefits program?
Sir, what's an EAP? That's an acronym. Maybe some people on the line don't know what that means.
Employee assistance plan, isn't it?
Yes, and it covers many different things, such as relationship issues, financial issues, legal issues. Let's say maybe somebody's got financial problems. They have available many different disciplines or specialists available through your program, and they allow you different levels of service, like consultations, mental health, where they will put you in touch with a counselor or a doctor, all virtually. Dustin, do you have any comments on available to, if you don't have an employee assistance program, are there any programs out there?
Yeah, I can't say that I'm the subject matter expert on that, Chuck, to be very frank. I just, because of the amount of clients that we have across Canada here at Payment Evolution, we're just seeing a lot of key trends when people are adding these benefits. And so we're just seeing an increase of people being super creative. I'll give you an example. I noticed that we handle a lot of childcare, daycare, and people are still getting paid. Some of them have been furloughed or been laid off, but we're noticing something really funny. Not only is it a Prime account that people are talking about, but it's like Disney Plus. Disney Plus is a good, subscriptions are being, thrown around right now because it could help with that work-life integration that everyone's experiencing right now. But I'm sorry to say I don't have a ton of other plans that probably could be beneficial, as I'm not the subject matter expert.
We had a question from on the line about using a private health services plan where all the health cost is 100% paid is direct business cost to the company, and the company just sets a limit on as little or as high they want to pay for things, and that could cover a lot of things. So can you comment on that kind of way of working?
Yes, a private health service plan, Ian, was something that the federal government approved for CRA about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. A little background about those programs is that the small businesses were not able to access traditional health and dental benefits. So they went to the federal government and they said, you know, that's not fair that large companies offer these things. And so the government then created what they called a private health service plan. And it was designed either for sole proprietors or for incorporated businesses, typically for less than 5, but they've expanded that up to hundreds of employees now. And that's where really where those lifestyle and wellness dollars fit in. And so if, and the maximums are based on roughly 10% to 20% of your T4 income. So you can't just have an unlimited amount of money available. And so let's be a little bit more specific as an example. If you have an incorporated small business with only yourself as the T4 employee, you can tax deduct up to roughly, or pardon me, you can allocate up to 10 to 20% of your T4 income, and you can use that money to tax deduct with no it's 100% tax deductible to the corporate, to your company, with no payroll taxes, and it's a non-T4 benefit to you to cover vision wear, like I know these sleep apnea machines, any sort of dental, up to that amount. And so there's no maximum, say $1,000 for orthodontics or something like that. And then you can also then allocate a certain amount of money for wellness dollars. So as Dustin was talking about, what about if an employee now all of a sudden has to have daycare costs because they're now working out of their home, or babysitting costs? You can run all those or Amazon accounts. You can allocate so many wellness dollars towards that, and those would be subject to payroll taxes and T4 to the individual. If you're a sole proprietor, CRA allows you to tax deduct a maximum of $1,500 per calendar year per adult in the family, and then $750 per child under the age of 18. If you have a disabled adult child at home, then that carries on for the past the age of 18. So for example, if you've got 2 parents and 2 children, the maximum would be $1,500 plus $1,500 plus another $1,500, so $4,500 per calendar year that can be deducted against that sole proprietor's income, and the expenses can be all allocated towards one person. So example, if you've got a child that's got orthodontics of $4,500 in that year, that can be all allocated to that one person. Is that, yeah?
Yeah, that's a really good answer to that. I want to make sure that we leave time for this next topic, because this is the awkward question which we've had is what happens if my my co-founder gets sick and can't work? What do we do? What should we be thinking about here? So can you sort of take us through, have you seen this case? I think would be an interesting question. Have you seen this kind of case come up lately? And what are companies doing about it?
This is a very common question that we're getting continuously is, and this is for startup companies, it's for companies that are in the growth stage and mature companies. What happens if a key person, not necessarily even a founder of the company, if it's a key person that's dealing with finance, or a key person that's dealing with your suppliers or your customers? What happens if that person cannot work for one of 3 reasons? They die, they become sick, or they're injured. And so the insurance industry provides different insurance products to protect the company, and to protect the shareholders, and to protect the suppliers of the organization. This typically comes up in lending money. I know on a few of your last discussions over the last few weeks, you've been talking about lending requirements. In a lot of cases, the lender, whether it's BDC or your traditional lender, will require life insurance to be on that person's life, or business overhead insurance if the person becomes disabled. And if the person dies or becomes disabled, then the money is paid to the company. And it could be, if the person dies, then it can be all paid to pay off the debt. the person becomes disabled, it'll cover the principal and the interest payments while the person's off work.
That's I guess important for companies to have. Should everyone be rushing to get key person insurance? Maybe they don't have a loan or anything, they hadn't had this requirement. Should people rush and get key person insurance right now just in case somebody gets hospitalized? Is it going to be hard to get key person insurance in this kind of during a pandemic?
Well, today's times doesn't really change a lot in the terms of, is it important to get it? And then, but your second question is, how do you get it? And are there maximums based on today's times? When we look at it, when we're advising a client, we're looking at what happens to your business if you die or you become sick or injured. So it's no different than any other time. Now, with the situation that's come up right now is people are asking, like, how can I get an insurance policy? Because the insurance companies typically require medical information. And they have allowed, what the insurance industries, they've really stepped up and they've allowed up to $1 million or $2 million of coverage of life insurance coverage with no paramedicals. In the past, they would need that up to certain ages, and then that reduces down all the way up to age 70. And some in the past, people would also say, well, I've got diabetes or I've got a heart condition. So the insurance companies have now come up and they will allow a policy to be issued and putting exclusions in for certain things. So in the past, it'd be very difficult to get coverages, but now they're allowing ways to provide.
And I'll just jump in real quick here. We're doing all the applications online as well, and all virtual signatures, and we're getting the policies issued with that. So that it's been a really good learning process for us as well.
And one of the bullets that you've got here is, are there any exclusions on these policies, especially with the COVID situation? What they're doing is, if you, and this kind of relates back to the group benefits as well, is if a person becomes sick or injured, an employee or a key person, it depends if they've got short-term or long-term disability. And if they do have those benefits, it will pay out if a person is unable to work because of that. There are no acts of God, if they want to call this an act of God or a pandemic. The insurance companies will still pay out. If it's a war or the person's involved with a criminal action, it won't pay out. In the first couple of years, if a person's involved with suicide or a criminal offense such as drinking and driving, disability policies, some of them on group plans have exclusion clauses, other plans don't. So you have to really read the fine print on that. If you're in jail, they don't pay out as well.
Right. Okay.
You can't get the bail money that way, no?
I wonder, have you seen this kind of policy triggered in the last few weeks, or maybe not among your own clients, hopefully not, maybe just out in the world of other benefits providers, other people might have seen this kind of thing happen. I wonder if you've got a real world story that you can share with us.
I personally don't have a real world story in the last 6 weeks. I mean, when we listen to the news, we hear about people unfortunately coming to their own demise or creating other demise for other people. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in terms of stress, not allowing people to function properly. And these types of policies will pay out if, like on disability, if a person becomes stressed out and they can't do their job, then they will pay out. I'm also kind of reading down on the triggering points is, can the policy, typically a lender, when they're lending money, or shareholders, private investors are investing in a company, especially for startups, they require life insurance typically, so the person dies, to pay them so that they can get their money back. And the policy can easily be assigned to the lender or to the private investor. And when they go to make a claim, basically it's very straightforward. The person dies, basically 7 days, they submit a claim, 7 days later, the money's typically paid out. Any other questions on that kind of come to mind? Anybody?
Well, I just want to say I'm glad to hear that we haven't had a real world story of this, but a really important point about stress. I think that's going to be the much more likely scenario of people tapping out because of stress. So we have to be prepared for that.
I think one thing to consider too, just to go back to Bronwyn's theme of, preparing us for when we go back to normal, is that people are exhausted right now. And when we can start doing the things we used to do, that doesn't necessarily mean that exhaustion is going to go away, right? So we need to kind of hold space for making sure that when we start to transition back to going back into the offices and leaving our houses and sitting in a coffee shop and having a coffee, what a concept, that there's still going to be some work to help people to get over the exhaustion and the stress from all of this too. It's not like you flip a switch and everything's fine.
Let's open up the mics and see if anybody on the line would like to say something. Looks like we've got a hand up from Dave. So if we can open up his mic, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So on this very topic, I'm curious what any one of you guys has to say about the challenge of being a startup, busting your buns trying to move things forward when it seems like for a lot of companies, maybe more mature companies that are sort of in the ecosystem around us, that some executives seem to be kind of in a work to rule mode, or in a, let's just say, in a very lower performance echelon, where maybe they're not as responsive, or maybe not holding themselves to a standard that they would normally perform to. You know what I mean? And one would wonder, is it better to tighten up agreements, to make sure that I don't know, we give people deadlines or whatever, or on the other hand, maybe is it better to just sort of chill and not I don't know, let things slide? I hate to put it that way, but it seems so reckless. What do you think?
So we're talking about performance of people on our team. Is that what you're thinking of? And then, yeah.
No, I'm thinking of people around the team. So other vendors or partners or whatever.
I see. Okay, yeah.
That's a good question. I think it's probably relevant for both parties, actually, outside of the company and within the company.
Fair enough.
I think it probably would depend on kind of the impact that's having on your business. If it's having a negative impact on your business, then you probably need to deal with it. If it's something that can slide a little bit, then, I mean, right now is a time for forgiveness and understanding, because everyone has a lot to deal with. So there's a certain amount of empathy that I'd probably keep in mind there, as well as how's that impacting your business. And then as far as your team goes, that's a tricky one, because it kind of depends on the person and what's going on for them. I think, I don't know, Bronwyn, what your thoughts are there, but I would say it would probably be good when, after the dust is settled here, to look at having a reset on the goals for the year, and maybe a performance check-in and reset, because everyone's going to be dealing with this pandemic differently, and to a certain extent we can't really fault people for their performance being affected by this, right, to a certain extent. Obviously if they've just given up all hope and start playing video games 24/7, okay, maybe that's a problem, but has anybody gone on long-term or short-term disability because of an addiction to video games during pandemic? I wonder. But
to happen.
It could happen. So yeah, I think that would be my response there. Dave, what do you think? Anything to add, Bronwyn, or anyone else?
No, I agree with what you said. It's you're really I think it's a case-by-case basis, and really talking to the person whose performance is potentially slipping slightly is a good place to start. But at the same time, it depends on the effect that it's having on the business, and I guess the rest of the team too. If they're really affecting the rest of the team's ability to complete their work, it's a little bit of a bigger conversation there. And it might be that they might need to go on a leave or take some time off to be able to regroup and kind of reset a little bit. Maybe that's an option.
Yeah, start with compassion, ask what they
Yeah.
can do, tell them what you need, and you don't have to have a fight about it, and you'll move things along. Another question was about,
And we're past time
oh,
here, so
we're just past time, so one last question then.
Mm-hmm.
Is how about employees, if an employee is asking for long-term disability coverage during the COVID time? So I'll throw that over to Team Grossholz, I suppose. How would you handle that?
Let me just get clarity on the question, Ian. Is the employee wanting to get a new long-term disability plan set up, or are they sick or injured and needing to make a claim? I didn't quite understand the question.
Yeah, I'm
not super clear. How do you want to answer either scenario? They're both probably valid.
And this, like, what a lot of companies do is they offer short-term disability or long-term disability. And then also, what happens if a person is medically required to go off of work because they've been diagnosed with COVID, or if they are self-isolating due to a choice?
Yeah.
And there's short-term disability will pay for 2 weeks if a person is diagnosed with COVID, and EI benefits are available if a person chooses to self-isolate, and they have to do that on their own. If they want to get a long-term disability policy put in place, that can be set up. So short-term and long-term disability policies from the insurance industry are definitely available to set up. The cost typically on a monthly basis is between $20 and $40 a month for each one of those benefits, just as a general ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
Per employee.
Okay, but you obviously have to have that in place before
they go on.
They go on. So if they're coming to you now with, I want short-term disability or long-term disability, then you have to have that plan in place. You can't retroactively do that.
No, what you're asking about is if somebody is sick,
mm-hmm.
can you make a claim if the policy has not been in place? I call them gotcha clauses. The insurance
mm-hmm.
industry has what they call pre-existing conditions, and every contract is a little bit different. But if a person typically has been sick for a period of time, somewhere between 3 months and 12 months prior to going on the plan, and they become sick because of that specific thing, then the insurance company won't pay out in the first 12 months or 24 months. But if the person does get sick, like cancer is a good example of that. If they have cancer and they go on the plan, they get cancer, they won't pay it. But after 2 years, if they go on a disability claim, it will pay because they had cancer prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. So if you don't have any problems now, get your policy in place just in case something comes up. All right. Okay, I think we have to wrap. But what remains to be said is thank you to all of our panelists for being on the line and answering all our questions. And also thank you to the participants for putting in your questions as well. And also for sharing. This experience is richer for everyone because we share and we have questions that come in from the community that we're able to answer. So please do share on your social media channels. Follow our Facebook or LinkedIn page if you're not already, and we'll have updates about the next chats coming around. Thanks very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Keep healthy.
Stay healthy, everybody. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.